Obviously, it's a really interesting approach. Using the ultra fast freezing technology, preserving the product quality, extending shelf life seems like a pretty meaningful shift compared to traditional freezing methods. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. And you don't see a lot of companies combining that level of innovation with real commercial applications across industries. So yeah, it's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your words. So NanoFreeze is actually a bio-nanotechnology company, and we created a novel bio-nanotechnology to refrigerate in a natural way. So basically, what we do is to use bacteria enzymes. And with these enzymes, we created a novel bio-nanotechnology by attaching these enzymes in nanoparticles of different materials. So we use highly conductive materials such as aluminum or low conductive materials such as silicium. So by using these different type of materials, we can whether increase water thermal conductivity, which results in up to 50% of energy efficiency in cooling systems that uses water to cool. So this is very useful for data centers, oil and gas, refrigerated warehouses, retail industry, because they rely on refrigeration to operate. So we created this technology to release the energy grid somehow, and of course, help businesses to become more operative efficiency and decrease their cost due to the refrigeration.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Just to just start, we can take a step back. Can you share a little bit about your role and kind of how you started at NanoFreeze, and was there a certain, you know, crossroads or a certain something that you saw or thought of that kind of led to NanoFreeze?
Of course. So when I was a university student in Bogota, Colombia, which is my country, I was studying biodesign in Los Andes University. So I wanted to dedicate my thesis to bioluminescence in order to create natural lighting for communities and more. So I decided to visit a rural town in Colombia in order to understand which were the biggest challenges of not having constant access to electricity. And after visiting them and spending some time there, I noticed that the light wasn't the problem, but the refrigeration was the most critical part, because these families, if they decided to kill a chicken or sacrifice any animal, they had to eat it
Hmm.
all the same day. Otherwise, it would rot the next day. So this is the origin of many other problems, such as the lack of access to health, the lack to access of perishable foods and more, and in itself the lack of access to quality life. So I decided to take this topic and bring it to my class in biodesign, where we started a research where we found a bacteria, a magical microorganism capable of freezing water at higher temperatures, which is the responsible of creating snow, hail, even rain. So after investigating more about this bacteria, we noticed that the reason why this bacteria was freezing water is because it has ice nucleating enzymes on its cellular membrane. So by using these enzymes, we just went to the engineering department and we looked for help and resources and access to the laboratories, where we created the novel bio-nanotechnology by using these enzymes, but attaching them to nanoparticles of highly conducting materials, of low conducting materials, so we can have endless application across the entire refrigeration industry. So my motivation started with the purpose of bringing refrigeration to the most remote places in the world, but at the same time, mm, helping to mitigate the impact of the refrigeration itself, and of course scaling this technology with the big partners and big corporates and businesses that rely on refrigeration to operate.
That's really cool. And to have it be the origin of, back when you were in school and to be as curious as you were and to understand that there was a problem and researching and coming up with a solution, starting this company. really cool origin story, really cool background as well. So thank you for that. What does a typical day look like for you? Uh, I'm assuming, given that you're an entrepreneur now, that it looks different. Every day looks different, and I've seen that with other entrepreneurs. But can you just tell me about what a typical day looks like for you?
Well, it's very busy, I have to
Hmm.
admit it. From the moment that I wake up, I have a lot of messages without reading because, of course, I work with people around the world. So I
Hmm.
just receive messages at different time schedules and everything. So I start, of course, my day by just preparing to go to the office. And when I get to the office, I just I don't know, prepare my drink, as for example, a tea or something like that. And then I start to read all of the messages, and is my beginning of the day is just to answer everything that I can. And after that, I start my meetings. Sometimes I have the meetings with my team, and I have, like, for example, the commercial area and also the technology area, where they work in the laboratory. So I try to just dedicate the morning to meet with them and organize the tasks and the pending topics that have to be resolved. But after that, I just need to dedicate just to prepare some documents, presentations, more like for investors. It could be also clients, big corporates. So it's very busy. I normally work 12 hours a day, 11 hours a day, which is the normal time. I think for any entrepreneur is like that.
Yeah.
And after that, I just go to the gym and try to just think in another stuff. And I end my day just like trying to meditate, like before
Okay.
sleep, just to rest
Hmm.
properly for the next day. Is sometimes very busy. Of course, it changes around the week. Sometimes I
Hmm.
have a business lunches, or for example, I have a breakfast with the CEO of any company important in Colombia, sometimes like that, because I try to be very active in the entrepreneur network here in Colombia and
Hmm.
also internationally.
Good for you. Good for you. I mean, I think that the meditation aspect is important for you with how busy you are. And it's funny. It's just I interviewed on this podcast. The last couple guests have been experts, and that's what they do is like holistic health, breath work, meditation. So that's top of mind for me right now, and obviously it's very important. And I didn't realize the importance of it, but that seems like you keep yourself busy. You have a daily routine, which is nice, and the networking part is something that I'm obviously focused on as well. How much of your time would you say is focused on product development versus partnerships versus commercial growth and other things?
Is probably product development is not anymore a priority because we already
Hmm.
have a product portfolio,
Hmm.
but still have a team dedicated to the nanofluid, which is the new business line that we're launching to the data centers, oil and gas industry, and more. So myself is not dedicated to that part, but I have a technical team working in the laboratory full time on that. So they
Okay.
dedicate like all the day to this R&D development. But I will say like most of the time I try to just focus both on investors and on clients. Because as CEO of a startup, which is a small company, I have to attend to important meetings with the big corporates, for example, AB InBev,
Hmm.
Postal, which is PepsiCo in Colombia. So I have to attend and prepare those meetings all the time, the results, the talk, the negotiation. So normally this is my priority and the investors as well. So if an investor asks me for a certain document and a conversation and a meeting with the team because they are as part of their due diligence, so I have just to dedicate that time to prepare the documentations, or if I haven't, just send it to them and facilitate all of the data that they're requesting. I will say that those two things are consume my whole time, and of course the existing investors, which all but they want to talk with me and see how they can support and see the results that we have obtained. So this is like the daily life of a CEO, I will think.
Hmm. Yeah. You're operating in a really interesting space right now. What major shifts are you seeing in freezing technology or preservation more broadly? Would you say that you're on the cutting edge as far as the pioneer in this space? Because, to be honest, and I think a lot of people don't know much about the space, and it's a very important concept, right? Because there's a lot of things that need to be preserved, such as, food, most importantly, what you were saying. And, how would you say you've seen the shifts that you're, whether it's, the freezing technology or preservation, what major shifts are you seeing?
I will say like the existing energy system and the energy grid is not just supplying the energy demand that humans have today. The rising demand of cooling is rising at the same speed or similar speed to the data centers growth because as data centers grow, we just need more refrigeration to sustain it. So the major shift will be more related to how we cool in a more efficient way. And the existing cooling systems actually work and work very well, but I will say that the materials that they are using probably are not the most efficient ones. For example, if you see a data center or any hotel, they normally use water-based cooling systems, as for example, these chillers that uses water to cool for heat exchange. And water probably is not the most efficient fluid for heat exchange. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. We created this bio-nanotechnology just to improve water thermal conductivity with still water, and we just need less than 5% of concentration for bio-nanotechnology in the whole system. But this makes a difference because we improve water thermal conductivity by 58% and still we add water. So this
Hmm.
of course results in energy efficiency that can be whether the 10% of energy efficiency or even 40%. It will depend of each system, the temperature set points and more. So the programmation also is related to the thermal conductivity of the fluid. So there are many things in detail that can be more efficient and this should be a priority because if not, otherwise we will run out of energy in a couple of years, and that's a reality. For example, in Colombia, we already are seeing this because it is expected that by the end of this year or the next year, we will suffer like a shut off of light and energy. And this is the same, is projected to happen worldwide if we continue to increasing the demand of energy, which of course cooling is a relevant thing, but we don't just find ways to how to be more efficient in consuming this energy. We're still like in NanoFreeze, we're providing of course cold, but at a more efficient way. So
Hmm.
it should be at the priority of everyone, right? And the major shift that humanity should focus on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're doing your part, Isabel. So, um, so obviously that's appreciated by I guess everyone, but especially the people in Colombia. How are things like demand for higher quality preservation, sustainability, reducing waste? Have you seen that demand increase over the last couple of years, and how is it impacting the industry?
The increasing demand of cooling, do you mean? The like
Like preservation, sustainability, reducing waste. Is there a higher? Have you noticed a higher demand the last, since you started, really?
for preservation, well,
Hmm.
um, yes, I would think that probably is an important thing,
Hmm.
and especially after the COP 16, that it
Hmm.
was like arranged in Cali, in one of the major cities in Colombia.
Hmm.
So I would say that after that event, the biodiversity, the preservation, and everything is like a priority for the country. And the current government is in pro of protecting the environment and more, even if it is
Hmm.
not But this is one of the things that the government protects, and I think yeah, it's a priority. When we come to customers saying that our technology is sustainable, believe me that some companies are putting this as a priority. For example, I remember visiting a crop last year just to sell one of our cold goods for cold transportation. And I remember that they were very like not sure about buying the product after I say to them that the coolant was biodegradable and the waste was safe. The waste of the coolant was safe to dispose it in the land and more. So the perception of the customers here change when you say that, and of course, is you notice that this moves the relation with the customer and at the end drives for the closing somehow. So yeah, I would say that Colombia is aware about
Hmm.
protecting the environment and sustainability and more. And probably that's one of the reasons why we have seen like uh, the growth here in the country, even if the technology has the potential to be installed worldwide in different regions. Colombia is very supported with this type of initiatives and technology. So yes.
Okay, okay. As far as the current state of your business, what's working really well for NanoFreeze right now?
Mm, I will say the energy efficiency field is working very well. As you know, or I just say that we work in different industries, as for example, called shipping, transportation, food. But we have seen like a major interest in the energy efficiency, especially because of the rising cost in the energy cost itself, right?
Hmm.
So, working with refrigerators, reducing the energy consumption of refrigerators and more, probably is working very well for NanoFreeze right now. So I will say that if we can install the technology for in the regions of Colombia and in the world that has the most expensive energy cost, this solution can be game changing for them. So I'm pretty sure that working with the coast of Colombia, where the energy cost is like 40 cents per kilowatt, that's working well, very well. So that's the purpose of driving our path to these regions where the energy
Hmm.
is inaccessible. Also, is working very well the bio fluid for chillers, for data centers, and more, because we have seen a lot of interest in the market. For example, one of the biggest hotels in Mexico came to us looking for this type of technology because they spent a lot of money on cooling systems, HVAC systems, and more. So I really have this feeling that when we have the capacity, which is in June or July, we will launch this installed capacity. We could be able just to cover a lot of customers in a short time.
Yeah, that's great. On the flip side, what would you say has been the most frustrating or challenging part of growing the business?
Probably the compliance to grow internationally.
Hmm.
Because as a startup, you don't have the budget just to enter in United States, for example, because they ask for a lot of certifications. So one of the priorities that we have right now is just to raise the funds to be able to certify the technology both with FDA and more things and enter to the United States market because those are barriers. Of course, this is super important, but when you think as a small company and thinking that you have to certify and wait a lot of time just to obtain the certification is of course a barrier, but is one of our priorities still. Like I would say that the most frustrating part, waiting for the to obtain this type of certifications, to obtain the patent, to obtain like those are long time periods of waiting. So that's frustrating, but it's part of the process, of course. One of the good news is that after waiting like 4 years of to obtain our patent, yesterday we received the news that we just obtained the patent conceded in Mexico, which of course is wow because we were in this process for so long time. So it's amazing. Like finally, after so long time, we are able just to have our patent conceded in that territory.
Yeah, that's great. I think that you're clearly on a good track. I mean, the certification process, I'm sure, is is time consuming and it's tough. And I obviously don't know anything about it. I mean, what would you say is the biggest like roadblock in that process? Is it something that would take a long time? Is it state by state, or is it just like the United States as a whole?
No, in Colombia is the same, for example, but it's not mandatory to be able to sell. That's the
Right.
difference. So,
Yes.
for example, in Colombia, I just want to place, for example, the RETIC, which is a certification for energy efficiency that will help us to improve our margins because they will not charge like taxes at the moment to nationalize the goods here in Colombia. So there's a lot of benefits for our businesses, for our margins, for our profit. But to obtain that certification, working with the government is very slow. So I would say that it's the same for every country, or
Hmm.
at least similar. So it's the regular Chinese, but the problem itself is when you can't commercialize without the certifications, that becomes a really important problem. And I think that happens in United States that you can't do it if you don't have those regulations. So that's the real problem itself. So we just speeding the commercialization in the territories where we know that we can commercialize without this. And at the same time, of course, the priority will be to obtain the FDA and more things just to be able to sell in the United States, which is, of course, a promising market for NanoFreeze.
Hmm. Um, Out of these four things, what would you say has been the biggest challenge as far as market education, uh, new technology adoption, partnerships, or like just scaling production? Has there been one of those that specifically has been a pain point for you?
All, all of them. No, all of them, of course, because you can't imagine how challenging it is just to be able to tell what your technology does
Right.
in a simple way when you know that it's very extremely technical.
Yes,
So
and
when you talk
complex.
about bacteria, biotechnology, and it saves energy, and a lot of questions come out because everyone is like, how it's possible? So you try your best as an entrepreneur just to give the
Hmm.
whole idea in a simple way, but still is like very difficult to educate because sometimes when you don't do it well, people think that you're lying or maybe you're not telling the whole story. So, and sometimes when you tell the detailed story, people still don't understand. It's like you're being too technical, something. So it's like that's the challenge, of course, the market education, being able to know and how to explain the technology to every profile between a
Yeah.
company. Like inside of a company, you have the economic area, just I don't know, like the financials area, like the sustainability. So you have to know how to give the speech to each person be,
Hmm.
within a company. So I would say like that's one of the biggest challenges, and it's an obstacle, of course, to speed the commercialization, like to be able just to go at a faster speed. And the other one is installed capacity. Is like a lot of people think that being an entrepreneur can be as fast in all of the cases. And for example, a fintech and a software company can scale a company 1 year and being able to become a unicorn in 3 years, 5 years, I don't know, because of the nature of the business. So if
Hmm.
you're a software, you can start to commercialize very soon and fast. But when you're a hardware company, when you have to create technology, create your own laboratory, your own facilities, hire maquilas to commercialize, that's a different speed. Like it's something that, of course, everyone has to understand that this is a different type of business. When we have to create a minimal viable product, is gonna be more slow, and that's something that is not easy to explain to investors, right?
Hmm.
Because investors want to see that we go a super fast speed, but this is a different type of business that, of course, require more, is more capital intensive, you need to increase your installed capacity, find your manufacturers, yeah, and allies. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes, let's
Hmm.
say,
Hmm.
that probably, yeah, that's the biggest challenge, I would say, finding the right partners and accelerating. And still, if you're a product company, is one of the, yeah, most tough things, I would say.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So which metrics would you say that you're focused most on at the moment right now on improving?
Sales, actually,
Hmm.
I already and installed capacity. So
Yeah.
recently we won three different awards. One is Catalyst from the Tecnológico de Monterrey, and they granted us with 100,000 euro. So we invested this budget both in installed capacity. We bought a lot of machines for our own laboratory. We also hire a technical team, so we have the possibility just to work on the production and in the R&D that I just mentioned to you for the data centers and more. So um, that's one of our priorities, just to be able to produce large quantities of bio nanotechnology, which is our own raw material, and at the same time generate the growth in the sales. So to be able to grow in the sales, we can't focus on large corporate partners, which is with what we have been doing all the time.
Hmm.
So we work with AB InBev in Mexico and Colombia, but these large companies still, they are good partners, but they're very slow. So they take like 1 year in taking the decision. So right now our priority and our focus is just to work with small businesses, for
Hmm.
example, restaurants, eh, stores, but not big retail lines of stores like 7-Eleven or Oxxo because they're the same slow,
Hmm.
but focusing on the small business owners. So that's giving us the results that we want to see, and I think that's the best way to grow in Latin America. If I would enter in United States, probably the focus would be different. But in Latin America, today is what we work in order to have cash flow and sales and revenue at the fastest speed. So that's my top priority. But of course, at the same time, I need just to increase installed capacity to be able to supply this demand that I'm generating. So yes.
Hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you have a good plan, and it sounds like I mean, just from me watching the video, I think it's a great video that you guys came out with, and it kind of shows, people like, I think obviously, people like me who isn't like in that industry, who's coming from like zero knowledge. I think that was really good, but also I think it focuses more on like the people in your future, customers and prospects, like to help them understand truly what the problem is and then position the solution really well. Um, so I think that's great. And obviously, yeah, I mean, sales, for any startup is, it can be a challenge, it can be a grind, but then it's like, it seems like it just like the light comes on, and it sounds like it's going to for you soon. Which is great. And no, this has been great. So you kind of mentioned about customer acquisition, uh, focusing on more of the bigger players, realizing that they take way too long to make decisions because there's so much politics, internally at those companies. Um, and then kind of focusing more on the smaller to medium-sized business like restaurants and stuff like that. Is that more local to Colombia at the moment? Just because you're at home and you have more of a, I guess, a knowledge base of those customers as well, and then kind of expanding from there is what it sounds like.
Yes, of course, because we already
Hmm.
have the one of the biggest companies in Colombia, which is Bavaria, AB InBev,
Okay. Okay.
basically.
Yeah.
AB InBev, which is Budweiser, all of these beer brands. So
Hmm.
we already work with them, and after working with them, we just realized that we can't keep this waiting. Like, of course, keep the work with them, but
Hmm. Hmm.
still you have to bring smaller ones just to give you the cash flow that you require. And at the end, if you work with the small businesses at the same time, you're also generating social impact.
Hmm.
Because remember that those are the type of business that uh, probably will just um, rely on backroom city because they can't afford the operating cost of the business. And
Hmm.
that is like a huge problematic in the coast of Colombia because of the high energy prices. So if we start to work with these small business owners, at the same time we can generate social impact, generate employment, so we can also yeah, like accomplish our mission of the company, but still generate a good impact on the planet. So it's not that we are just ignoring the big corporates, we're still focusing on them,
Right.
but at the same time, we're opening these small businesses, which is are the ones that can generate the cash flow for our company, and it makes a lot of sense just to work with them for the nature of our company, which is of
Hmm.
course bring refrigeration to the most vulnerable populations
Yep.
in
Yep.
Colombia and in the world, right?
Yep.
Mm, yes, I think the same will work in Mexico because in
Hmm.
Mexico similar country than us. You can find a lot of small stores, small business owners. So that will be the same focus in Mexico because today
Hmm.
we're selling in both countries.
Okay, great. Great.
Mhm.
Where do you want to be as a company 6 to 12 months from now? Is it more commercial partnerships, more scaling, kind of what we talked about? What do you envision in the next 6 to 12 months?
More commercial partnerships, as you say.
Hmm.
Today we're working with in some alliances with other companies that work in the energy efficiency field, where they want, of course, cooling efficiency technologies like
Hmm.
ours. So this type of partnerships will work a lot to expand massively in the markets that I just mentioned to you. But another one will be the expansion on compliance.
Hmm.
Remember that I told you, of course,
Yeah.
today we're dedicating some resources to open certain markets to be able to certify the technology and to bring other corporate partners such as manufacturers of chillers, manufacturers of refrigerators, so they can become like the commercial allies that we're looking for, and at the same time the ones that help us with the compliance. So those type of alliances are the ones that I'm looking for, and I already have the resources to do that, so I'm already starting to look for this type of companies and propose them that I will cover all of the costs for the certifications, and at the same time they can become more representatives and expand the technology. So those will be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we talked a lot about kind of what you're working on, where you feel good about, what you feel good about, what you think the challenges still are. I mean, if you could solve one major challenge today, what would you say it is?
Of my company, right? Of
Hmm. Hmm.
the.
Well, I guess besides world peace, right? We all want that, but yes, no, of NanoFreeze.
I was thinking like in the world or in.
Yeah.
Okay, no, in NanoFreeze, I would say like um major challenge would be I don't know, just probably there's a lot of challenges, right? So
Hmm.
I'm trying to just to think
Hmm.
which would be the biggest one, but no, I mean I could say like they're bringing more capital to the company, which is
Hmm.
something that of course I'm working on.
Okay.
And because I think with that capital, we can solve the rest of the challenges, right? So I would say like if we can bring some capital, we can just open more markets, including United States.
Hmm.
And I would think that that would solve the compliance problem, the speed of the sales, probably because we will have the capacity of hire more commercial team, not only in Colombia, but in Mexico, in United States as well. So capital would be the best, like the most important, because with that you can solve the
Yeah,
other ones, right?
absolutely.
Mhm.
Capital means everything to every company, but especially
Mhm.
startups. So no, that's great. I really appreciate, yeah, Isabel, I really appreciate you taking the time today. This was a great conversation, really enlightening into a look at your everyday, kind of how you started NanoFreeze, how you came up with the idea, how you're executing, and the different things that you're doing. I think it's really great, and I think that there's a lot of demand for your product throughout the not only throughout the United States where I live in Chicago, but really throughout the world. And I think that the energy is a big topic, and for you to create a product that becomes more energy that helps the world become more energy efficient is a really cool thing. So I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation.
Great. Thank you, Josh, for this invitation and for
Of course.
showcasing NanoFreeze in this space is super valuable for us. So thank you.